So we are going to factor the polynomial completely. By the way, this is our worksheet on solve by factoring with 4 terms. We're going to factor each polynomial completely. Then we're going to find each x-intercept and the y-intercept. The degree of the polynomial will tell you how many x-intercepts you should get. So looking at this polynomial, what is our degree? 3. So how many x-intercepts should I get? 3. All right. So if you get 4, something's wrong, right? We need 3. Okay, so we're going to start by finding the factored form. When I want you to find the factored form of the function, I still want it to say f of x equals on that line. So let's go ahead and put that there now so we don't forget. All right. All right, now I'm just going to look at the polynomial part. And our first step of factoring, every single time we factor, the first step is GCF. You got it. Is there a greatest common factor? So I'm going to look at all 4 terms. And I'm going to look for a greatest common factor. What? I'm not there yet. I'm just looking for a greatest common factor in all 4 terms. Is there a GCF in all 4 terms? No. Now we move on. There are 4 terms. Does anybody remember what that factoring procedure is called when there's 4 terms? Grouping. Yeah, we're going to factor by grouping. And the first rule for factoring by grouping, you got to have a plus sign in between. So if you have a subtraction, you better change it into plus and negative before you go on. Notice, I'm going to skip ahead to number 2 real fast. On number 2, there is a plus sign in between, so you don't have to do that extra step. It's only if in the middle you have a subtraction sign. Now, we are going to group the first 2 and the last 2 together. My addition sign is in between the groups. The negative 9x is inside the group. And we're going to now look for a GCF for the first group. Is there something we can pull out? What is it? X squared. So I'm going to put x squared in front of a parenthesis. And then we do division, which we were reviewing last time I saw you guys. X cubed divided by x squared. What do I have left? X plus 1. When I divide the exact same thing by itself, that's 1. That's not 0. It doesn't go away. That's 1. All right, then I'm going to bring my plus sign. And now I'm going to look at this this group, and we're going to say, what can we take out of this group? Okay, if it starts with a negative, most likely we're going to be taking out a negative. So make sure you take out that negative with the 9. I'm going to put that number out front, and left over, I'm taking out a negative 9. I have an x. And when I have a subtraction and I take out the negative, it becomes a positive. 9 over 9 is 1. So that is my first step. I am not done. From here, the next step is to look at these 2 parentheses. And if we don't have exactly the exact same thing in both, then you cannot move on. It has to say x plus 1 in both of those equations, or in parentheses. If one says got x plus 1, the other says x minus 1, you can't move on. It has to be exactly the same. So this one is exactly the same because you're doing it with me. But when you're doing it on your own on this worksheet, if you get a scenario where they're not the same, your hand goes up and you say, I need help, Ms. Criswell. Okay, you don't wait. You don't wait. You ask. Okay, they have to be the same. If they are the same, we are going to factor out that parenthesis. So we're dividing it and we're putting it in front. I'm just going to go up here. X plus 1, we are putting it in front. We're dividing it out. That's going to get rid of these x plus 1s. So what is left over when I pull out the x plus 1s? X squared. And then I have plus negative 9, which I will simplify and write minus 9. So x squared minus 9 is left over. All right, I took out the x plus 1s. They were exactly the same. I write what's left over in another parenthesis. Now we have to check to see if we're done factoring. This is another thing that people forget to do. So our check, when we have a binomial, we have two questions. When we have two terms, two questions. Two questions, two Q's, okay? The first question, is it subtraction? So looking at this black parenthesis here, is it subtraction? Not this one. So the answer is no. And if it's not subtraction, guess what? It's done. That one's done. I think we were putting check marks before. The blue one, is it subtraction? Okay, so that's my first question. If it's subtraction, then we ask the second question. The second question, do we have perfect squares? Yes. I was asking about the 9 earlier in class. Not the 9, the 1. Remember, it doesn't have to do with this one, but remember I said, is 1 times 1, 1, is that a perfect square? Yes, 1 is a perfect square. That's for a different question, not this one. Okay, so is it perfect squares? Yes. If it is, then we do difference of squares factoring. We take x squared minus 9, we break it apart to two binomials. Then we're going to take this x squared, we're going to make it x and x. We take this 9, we make it 3 and 3. And then the last thing we do is we have different signs. So difference of squares, different signs. If it's a subtraction sign, different signs. So then we have to see. No, the minus 3. Oh, you mean the black one there? No, I think we at the end. The order of these parentheses doesn't matter. Then we need to check and make sure that x plus 3 is done. So we ask our two questions. Is it subtraction? Quit saying yes, it's not subtraction. No, it is not. So we are done with this guy. And then what about this one? Is it subtraction? Yes. Do we have perfect squares? No, then we're done. It's only when we get yes, yes, that we could do more stuff. So on the blank, I'm going to write x plus 1, x plus 3, x minus 3. And what was asked earlier, does it have to go in that order? No. As long as you have all three of them there, doesn't matter the order. So we have it factored. That's the first step for each of these. The next step for each of these, it says to find the y-intercept, the y-intercept. Before I find the y-intercept, somebody explain how we always find y-intercepts. Make what 0? X equals 0, right? So I'm going to do f of 0. I'm going to plug in 0 for every single x in the equation. Does it matter which form of the equation I use? Can I use the original? Can I use the factored form? Or does it matter? It should not matter because they are the same equation. It should not matter. However, I'm a mistake maker. If I find the y-intercept in this factored form and I had factored it wrong, I might get the y-intercept wrong also. So I tend to use the original to find the y-intercept. But it doesn't matter which one you use. I'm going to use the original. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 0 for every single x. I'm going to have 0 to the third plus 0 to the second. The original said minus 9 times 0 minus 9. So I put 0 in for every single x. On the quiz, I had multiple people tell me it wasn't 9 times 0, but on the quiz, I had multiple people tell me something like, oh, 9 times 0, that's 9. No, it is not. Anything times 0 is what? Okay, so this is 0. 0 times 0, 0. 0 times 0, 0, 0. Minus 9. So 0, 0, 0, those are gone. It doesn't matter if it's plus or minus 0. Those are gone, and we get negative 9. Make sure that negative stays with that 9 at the end. So on my blank, I'm going to write the y-intercept. This is something that most people remembered, but some of you still forgot. How do I write an intercept? 0, -9, what is that thing called? Ordered pair. If you are asked to find intercept, ordered pair. If you're asked to find intercepts, ordered pair. Okay. Almost done. We now have the x-intercepts. I'm going to find the x-intercepts by factoring because I just factored it. And so it's the easiest way to find it that way. But what do I have to do to the equation to find, make the y 0? I make the y 0. So to find my x-intercepts, make y = 0. Or in this case, it's f of x. That becomes 0. That whole side becomes 0. So I'm going to rewrite 0 equals, and then it's what? X plus 1 times x plus 3 times x minus 3. So I'm using the factored form because that's the easiest, quickest way for me to solve it. Once we have it factored, we have it equal to 0, how do I actually solve? I'm almost there. Make each individual factor equal 0. So here's the thing. On the last test that we took last chapter, a lot of people are like, oh, they factored it great. It was hard factoring. They got the factoring done. And then they said, oh, my answer is 1. No, it is not. You skip the easy part. You have to set each factor equal to 0. So x plus 1 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. Set each factor equal to 0 and literally solve them. So like Alexa said earlier, subtract 1. All right, we got to subtract that 1. And then we get x equals -1. What do I do for this one? Subtract 3. Could I maybe do that in my head? Yes, but some of you are not actually doing that at all. So we got to make sure we know to do that. So do I have to write +3 + 3? If I'm doing it fine without writing it, that's great. But I got 3 answers. And how many was I supposed to get? 3. Oh yeah, we wrote that at the beginning. Degree 3, that means 3 answers. When we write our x-intercepts, which one is going to come first? The smallest, so -3. But I'm not just going to write -3. -3, 0, because it's an intercept, we write an ordered pair. Then the next smallest is -1, and then the largest 3. So I made a video for you. If you forget what to do, you could go back and look at this video. Right now in class, we're going to do the other 4. I have given you some tricky things in number 2, in number 3, in number 4, but I feel like most of you are going to be able to get it. And if you get tricked, you raise your hand and get help right away. If I'm busy across the room, go on and move on to a different question while you're waiting for me. After this, your assignment is already in your packet, and I have it open somewhere. Here it is. I started writing on it. I'll have this up later in class, but it says factoring review. It's the very end of your packet. And I'll just put this on here because there's things that I am going to talk to you later in class, but it's not going to be on this video. So I'll just put it up on the video just in case anybody's watching it. But that is going to be our assignment. So the 4 questions we're going to get done now, and then you can start working on your assignment after that. Okay?